Okay, now is the time for me to do a video log talking about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Yeah, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Heroes in a Half Shell, Turtle Power, you know that series. Series loved by many, many, many. And let's take a look at this new universe of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Yeah, taking a look at the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle multiverse. What's this new universe that the great gods of the Ninja Turtles have presented us with now? Those who bring us the realms of Ninja Turtles. What have they created for us now? Yeah, heroes in a half shell. Ugh, turtle power. Yep, yeah. Alright, so the internet is not very happy with early concept images of the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And I don't blame them. I don't blame anybody. I don't blame them. I'm going to give my thoughts on this. One of the first things I thought was, I thought of the most recent animated series that apparently has just come to an end. And I thought to myself, well, at least this time, they're not screwing up Donatello as much as they previously did. I didn't like what they did to his design. Not as bad as what they did to Casey Jones's design, but hey, whatever. And in this one, I thought, well, this time Donatello has the best look of any of them, I thought. And then I looked a little bit closer and I discovered that his do-rag skull cap bandana thing is kind of square-headed shaped, and actually looks kind of lame. But for a brief moment, I thought they did a good job with Donatello. I mean, relatively speaking. Relatively speaking, I thought that might be a good job done with Donatello. But this is not an art style I like. My favorite animated version of Ninja Turtles would be the second animated series. The second Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle animated series, which was, it was great. It was the most true to the original Ninja Turtles of any cartoon version of the Ninja Turtles, though the third series, which was CGI, came close, and also was really good, and both of them definitely better than the first cartoon series, though the first cartoon series had an awesome Season 1 and an excellent Season 8, but I don't like this art style. The art style reminds me of a cross between the newest movie series, which I'd rather not talk about at all because just bad. It's like that new Transformers, new Ninja Turtle movies. Just bad. But the characters have an appearance that kind of is reminiscent of that, I think, mainly because of Raphael. The art style looks like they took the art style of the second animated series, which made the characters a little less cartoony, but also a little less realistic. I think the creator of the Ninja Turtles referred to them as looking more heroic, more comic-like than the previous roundish, cartoonish version of the Turtles. But the original comics had kind of like a realistic, gritty look to them, and then the first cartoon adaptation, while being kind of goofy, roundish, it still had a realism to it. I mean, So, as much as I love the second animated series, I'm not a big fan of the overly stylized animated look of it, I preferred something a little more detailed, even if it was something a little more rounded and smoothed out. I would prefer something more detailed like the first animated series. That said, this looks like they took that look of the second animated series and then pushed it even further to the point where the characters look even less detailed and less realistic, and then designed the characters around the bad movies. Just not good. Just not good. I'm glad it looks like they're going back to classical animation rather than CGI, but this is not a move in a direction I really like. Now, I wasn't a big fan of the art style of the third animated series either, the CGI cartoon series. But, it had its positives, and who knows, maybe even though I don't like the look of this, maybe it'll have its positives too. Okay, on to the one thing about this new series that a lot of people have spoken positive about, and once again, I'm kind of neutral. April O'Neil. Some people said, yeah, it's great that she's a black character, because in the original comics it looked like she may have been black. Well, sometimes she had like a hairstyle that kind of made it look like she might be black. She didn't look like she was extremely pale variation of European, but I never thought she looked black in the original comics, though in the original comics Baxter Stockman was definitely black. Don't really think the character has a history of being black, but the character does have a history of undergoing a lot of redesigns. And this is just another redesign. A lot of people have been really positive about the new look, or at least it was one thing that kind of sounded positive from a lot of people. And yeah, it looks like a perfectly fine character. If I were to redesign April O'Neil, I'd make her an adult. Like, the last animated series did a pretty good job of making her an interesting character that was younger, and they did a good job with it. Still, I'd prefer future versions of April O'Neil to be a young adult as opposed to a teenager. Something that looks like that might be a carryover from the third animated series is in the promotional art. It does look like she's often portrayed as being pretty close to Donatello, whom has been referenced as being a soft-shelled breed of turtle in this. Thus, he wears more body armor than the other turtles, which is fine. It's kind of goofy how it looks like she's riding him like a transformer machine sort of thing. I mean, that kind of looks a little bit goofy. But I do like the idea of a future series that does have some sort of relationship between April O'Neil and Donatello, even though it kind of came out of nowhere. In the past, she usually ends up in a relationship with Casey Jones. The third animated series actually handled the interaction between April O'Neil and Donatello really well, and you know, I'm kind of hoping that this series kind of reflects that, since future series are going to reflect the past ones to some degree. So I'm perfectly fine with this version of April O'Neil. A lot of people. It's one thing that I've heard people talk positive about it. Mainly because they thought that April O'Neil looked like she may have been black in the original comics. And I don't know about that, but she didn't really look like she was the palest variation of European. But I thought she was drawn to look like she was probably descended from European, people somewhere, but not the palest variation of them. I don't know. I just never really thought of her as looking black, but anyway, this does look like a perfectly fine character in a world where Ninja Turtles are going to be hanging out with human teenagers. Though I was kind of hoping they'd move away from the whole human teenagers as friends of the Ninja Turtles, but this is fine. And a perfectly fine character design. Though with the glasses, I'm thinking more of a alternate version of Irma than April O'Neil. Yeah, but perfectly fine character. Alright, now, I mentioned Donatello, yeah. I don't really care for the squarish cap on him. What's another design? Oh, this one. Let's see here somewhere. There's been a lot of versions of Splinter over the years. Usually fairly good. Some people joke that the last animated series he kind of looked like a kangaroo, but it's like what the fuck is this? What in the hell is this? What is this damn scribble? This is what Splinter looks like now. This is just horrible. This does not look like Ninja Turtle, anything that should ever be considered Ninja Turtle art style, and this just looks like a nasty cartoon mouse. When I look at this new version of Splinter, I just want to say, what the hell is that, and move on. So that's what I'll do. What the hell is that? Okay, so what else should I look at here? Just a second. I'm actually going through the pictures in real time here, looking for something else. Okay, how about Leonardo? In most versions of Ninja Turtles, Leonardo is almost always my favorite character. When I first watched the second animated series, actually Donatello was quickly becoming my favorite character. And then, as usual, it became Leonardo again. The first animated series, I found him to be the least annoying character in the first animated series. him and Donatello were again my favorites, but Leonardo more than Donatello in the first animated series. In this one, well, considering the art style, he's not that bad looking, considering the art style of this series. Now, it's been said that he's been referred to as the self-proclaimed cool guy in the group, or coolest of the turtles. It's one thing for people to say, yeah, that's the cool guy in the group. He's kind of smooth. He's kind of easygoing. He's the cool guy in the group. You know, that's one thing. When you're the self-proclaimed cool guy, it sounds like he's a dick. Yeah, it just sounds like he's a jackass. Which is a little disappointing. This might be the version where Leonardo becomes my least favorite character. Now, in the first animated series, it seemed like the writers just didn't know what the hell to do with him. In the second animated series, he really took front stage really well. They did a good job with him. And same for the third animated series. The third animated series probably put Leonardo to the best use, though the second animated series he actually even developed post-traumatic stress disorder at one point in the second. Leonardo has been put to real good use in the original comics. The second comic book series, the one published by Archie, that was the Turtles' Adventures, that parallel universe. In that one, he was even fairly well done in that one. He was kind of had a unique hatred of guns that I kind of liked. You know, Leonardo's always been the smart character, not as intelligent as Donatello, but kind of the one that thinks fast, clever, sums things up quickly, and the natural leader. And in this one, he's not the leader. No, for that we have to move on to Raphael, the oldest of the brothers in this version, and the biggest and strongest. Now, there's always been, not always, but for the most part, there's been a sibling rivalry. Mispronounced rivalry. But anyways, usually Leonardo and Raphael end up becoming rivals at some point in most Ninja Turtle stories. Now, some people would say this started with the original comic, and while it was present in the original comic, it wasn't the first one to do it, and it's been said that the first animated series was the only show to never show it, the rivalry between the two. And yeah, there wasn't really a particular rivalry between the two. All the turtles argued at some point, but for the most part, there was no sibling rivalry between Leonardo and Raphael in the first animated series. But the first time I truly noticed a rivalry, earliest published anything, even before the movie, which really showed it, Raphael seemed to resent Leonardo for the others treating him as a leader, you know, in the first movie, which came out in 1990. Which was around the time Raphael got in a fight with Leonardo. I think it was 1989, when he was really angry at Leonardo because Leonardo didn't want to return to the city, and he blamed Leonardo. And prior to that, in the original comic, Raphael seemed to be at odds with the group. He'd get angry and break off on his own, but he didn't seem to be a rival of Leonardo's. Just Leonardo usually took the brunt of it because Leonardo was kind of like the leader, and it didn't really come off as a rivalry exactly yet, and even in the original comics at that point. The first time I see them act like rivals, the first time I see Leonardo and Raphael actually portrayed as rivals in anything published or printed of the Ninja Turtles, the earliest example I can think of is actually when Raphael has started to wear the black costume, which he did temporarily in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Adventures comic, which is a parallel universe to the original Mirage Studios comic. Separate universes. It took on more of a look of the cartoon series, but it was far better written than the cartoon series. Those Turtle Adventures comics. For that brief time when Raphael wore the black costume, there's one point where he says to Master Splinter that he talks about how he thinks it's a good costume change for him to keep his black costume, because they actually got some alternate costumes when they were forced to do intergalactic wrestling. Anyway, he decides to keep the costume because it's dark out, you know, about half the time, and, you know, it's great for hiding in the shadows, which makes sense because they're ninjas. And Splinter, praises him for his decision making, and that was a good idea, and so forth. And he kind of gives Leonardo a dirty look, and Leonardo gives him a dirty look back, as if he's happy to have won up to Leonardo, because Leonardo's usually the one that gets the praise from Splinter. That was the first time I saw them actually act like rivals, as opposed to Raphael just being at odds with the group, getting angry, wanting to break off on his own, and taking it out on Leonardo because Leonardo happens to be the other one that Donatello and Michelangelo looked to as a leader. Like, that was the first time where it actually seemed like it was kind of personal. But that said, in the second animated series, I'm pretty sure one episode where Raphael actually references when he was younger, he actually thought he should be the leader of the group because he was the bravest and boldest of the turtles. And that actually played out in the earliest episodes of the third animated series. So switching the roles and making Raphael like a leader, perhaps even a brave but brazen and brash leader, might be a new dynamic, like a reality where Leonardo had no interest in being the leader, and it was Raphael. And perhaps that could even be a story arc where Leonardo might show off like a natural talent for taking care of his siblings and planning and organizing, and Raphael might end up, that's what I think is going to be like a plot line. Raphael be the leader, and at some point they'll realize Leonardo makes a better leader. That's a plot line that I think they might be going for. Of course, they might just want to make Leonardo kind of like a new version of what Raphael was in the first cartoon series, the sarcastic guy or something like that, which I kind of hope not. And if they do, I hope they give him better sarcasm than Raphael had in that cartoon show. But anyway, yeah, I'm actually all for the idea of switching things around. And remember, in that first movie where Leonardo was the leader, in the first movie of the first movie series based on the Ninja Turtles, that rap song at the end of the movie references Raphael as being the leader of the group. Well, that finally came true. It wasn't true for that movie, but it will be true for this series. So, at least early on. I have a feeling that they're going to come up with a plot line where Leonardo ends up becoming the leader because Raphael, despite being brash and bold, will end up realizing he might not be the best strategist. And of course, if anybody ever saw issue 9 of the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, you'd remember that was a prequel issue. Was the pre-Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And as for some of these alternate weapons, well, Leonardo with a single katana, and Raphael with these, are they tons or whatever? That was early weapons that they tried in that continuity. And also, the skull caps, rather than just a bandana mask, they were full-blown head-covering do-rag skull cap things. So, this could be a throwback to the concept of the pre-Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from the original series, and if so, then that's kind of interesting in a way, and this would indicate that this series starts off maybe developing into something a little bit more like the traditional Ninja Turtles. But anyway, that's what I think they might be going for. And as for Michelangelo, there's been a lot of good versions of Michelangelo over the years. He's usually not my favorite character, but I have seen him put to pretty good use, especially in the original comics, the second comic book series, the second animated series. The third animated series, he was a little too silly, but even then, he had some good moments. I don't know how his character is going to differ in this. Probably not too much different. Hopefully they don't make him too dumb, because it's kind of disappointing when they make a character kind of stupid, makes him less interesting, a little harder to watch. So hopefully this version he'll be fairly intelligent, or at least moderately intelligent. And, looks like, he doesn't have his nunchucks, but, well, this won't be the first time that creators of the Ninja Turtle series may try to get away from portraying Michelangelo as using nunchucks, or at least limit how much he uses nunchucks. So, I mean, yeah, changing his weapon. All the weapons have been changed a bit, which is just kind of weird. I think it's all part of them trying to go for a more child-friendly cartoon series, which is fine. The existing third animated series, bringing it to an end when it's as beloved as it is by people of all ages, seems like a bad idea to me. Now, my favorite versions of Ninja Turtles, there's the original Mirage Studio version, which is one of my favorites, along with, pretty much tied with that one, is the second comic book series. So the first and second comic book series, both of them, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Adventures comic book series, along with the Mirage Studios comic book series. I loved both of those. The second comic book series, Turtles Adventures, took on the appearance of the cartoon show, but it had far better writing. It focused a little more on supernatural stories, while the Mirage Studios one kind of focused more on science fiction. And it was all good. There was great storytelling in both of them. Well, that first animated series. The first animated series was great in its first season and came back to a pretty good quality level for its 8th season. For the most part, that first animated series was a whole lot of mediocrity. Not a big fan of that first cartoon show. In fact, by the time it ended, there was a lot of backlash against that cartoon show for making Ninja Turtles into kind of like a dumb cartoon thing and really departing from the original version of Ninja Turtles. Though the second animated series, which I consider to be the best animated series and right up there with those first two comic book series that I referenced, that's my third favorite, well, tied for top 3 favorite version of Ninja Turtles, that second animated series. There was a little bit of backlash against that one for departing from what the original Goofy cartoon had been. But I prefer that. I prefer it if they stay true to the original version of Ninja Turtles. Of the movies, my least favorite would be the second one. I'm not even counting the Michael Bay production studio movies. Those were just crap. So, or at least what I've seen of them was crap. I only watched the first one completely. I don't want to see the second one. But of the first 4, the 3 live action plus 1 CGI one, I thought they were great movies. The second one was really weak. I was not a big fan of just a lot of the plot points and things that just felt weakly washed together in that second movie. The third movie, could have been better, but it desperately needed a sequel, something to explain some of the time travel aspects where it looked like the Turtles had already been in the past, and something to set up the coincidence where the Turtles just happen across, or April O'Neil just happens across the time travel scepter. Of course, that happens in most Turtle universes, so I guess it's something that was just destined to happen, but, that third movie, I actually thought was pretty good story. I actually liked how the characters played out in it. Then the fourth one, which was CGI, I love that one. A lot of people couldn't follow it. Like, they found it was just all over the place. But I didn't. I thought it was great storytelling. I loved that there was a lot going on it. I loved the feeling of it. How it felt like old Ninja Turtle media, like the old comics, both of the earlier comic book series, both the Archie and Mirage Studio versions. I absolutely loved that CGI Turtle movie. Not the new Michael Bay ones, but just the computer animated one. I thought that was a great movie. The fourth one in the first movie series. And of the current versions of Ninja Turtles, the more recent ones, I wasn't that big on the IDW comic book version. I liked that they crossed over with Ghostbusters, though, but, whatever. And I hated the new Michael Bay movies, or at least it was his production studio or something like that. Of the newer media, I actually really liked that third animated series. So the third animated series being put out alongside those really dumb movies, and the comic book series that I just felt wasn't as good as past versions of the comic, really was a strong point in the more recent Ninja Turtle media. And as much as I hate reboots, I kind of accept Ninja Turtles getting rebooted, because everything Ninja Turtles was always something different. everything was a reboot. The Ninja Turtle stuff that was published side by side by other Ninja Turtle stuff would take place in different universes. So while I would really enjoy and appreciate a restoration of one of the previous versions of Ninja Turtles, or something that continued an older version of Ninja Turtles, I don't hate on a Ninja Turtles reboot as much as I would if it was another series being rebooted. Still, this new series, it's gotten a lot of hate for its character designs and what they've been talking about doing with the series. And I understand and I agree. I agree with it. It looks like a lot of bad choices for Ninja Turtles, changing their weapons, going with this art style, making Master Splinter look like a scratchy doodle that's loosely mouse shaped. This is definitely not a perfect version of Ninja Turtles. And the fact that it's coming after the third animated series, which is such a beloved series by people of so many different age groups, is really disappointing. Some high points for me in Ninja Turtles. If you ever get the collected Volume 1 of the Mirage Studios comics, that's a great point in Ninja Turtle history. I also liked their Volume 4 especially. I thought that was really good. The City at War storyline, a lot of that stuff was great stuff. The Return to New York City line, any of the canonical Mirage Studio Ninja Turtle stuff is great. They did a lot of non-canonical issues, but it was great. Now, the Ninja Turtles... Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles by Mirage Studios, the Volume 2 of that, I felt it got weak, got repetitive, way too many supernatural stories, but even that was some great stuff, just not their absolute best. I'd say the first thing to seek out Ninja Turtles is Volume 1 of that first comic book series, the really big, thick paperback version of it that has like 12 issues of the regular series, or is it 13 issues, plus the 4 issues, the miniseries that focus on each Ninja Turtle individually. That's a great comic book. To me, it stands right up there with The Dark Knight Returns and Watchmen, some of the great comics of the 80s like those. Great stuff. If you can get your hands on, IDW recently reprinted it, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Adventures comics. It's going to start off a little weak replicating some of the early cartoon episodes, but as you read through it, it becomes some really great stuff. I especially like the story arc where the Ninja Turtles go into space, near a black hole, travel near a black hole in Dimension X, and that takes place, it actually takes place at a split story that goes 2 different directions, and one half of the first story has 3 of the turtles dealing with an alien that plays back to a reference to some of the earliest issues of the comic that you think was forgotten about, while Raphael and Ninjara deal with one of the most disgusting variations of humanity, a hunter. Some real great stuff came from that comic. And if you can get your hands on DVDs of the second animated series or the third animated series, they're definitely worth following through. The second animated series is best during its first few seasons. Gets a little bit weaker when they travel into the future. It even seemed kind of weak when they came back from the future, but still a great series. And they did a great crossover final episode with the original cartoon series. That was also great too. Turtles Forever was a great example of Turtles media. There's been a lot of great Ninja Turtles media out there. I recommend looking for a lot of it. And this new series looks bad, but it looks like it might have potential too. So I'll wait and see. But it's not perfect. Doesn't look perfect. Looks like it has some good ideas. Well, if you managed to stick through my video this long, if you stuck through to the end, if you're still watching, feel free to check out some more of my videos. Yeah? At the time I'm recording this, I've been uploading to both DTube and YouTube, so, feel free to look for some more of my videos on the tubes. Yeah, I might upload to other places in the future. Who knows where all my videos might end up. But like I said, if you found this interesting, feel free to check out more of my videos. And if you reviewing it on DTube or YouTube. I always appreciate upvotes and thumbs up and all that wonderful stuff, and subscribing. Subscribing to small YouTube channels can be very helpful to them, so go find some small YouTube channels and just subscribe to them. It doesn't actually seem to affect whether or not YouTube shows you the content on those channels, but it does help those channels out because it affects how YouTube will treat them. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Feel free to check out more videos of mine, because I have more. There's a lot more out there. Thanks for watching.